You will need some white polymer clay, and I have previously conditioned the polymer clay, and I passed it through the setting number 2 of my Atlas pastel machine, and then I used a beautiful embossing folder to impress a beautiful texture onto the clay, and this is going to be the back of the pieces. And then I have passed through the same setting of the pasta machine a second piece of polymer clay. And then I have chosen a beautiful stencil, and I've applied it on top of the clay. I pressed it into the polymer clay, and then I am going to use Pan Pastel, ultramarine Pan Pastel, and in fact I'm using my fingers, but you could use an applicator, of course. So I'm using my fingers, as I said, to apply Pan Pastel into the openings of the stencil, and I'm going to insist on doing so until I have a beautiful pattern impressed onto the polymer clay. Before lifting the stencil, you have to make sure you don't have flying pastel on top of the stencil, and it is a good thing to blow over the stencil to make sure you don't have such excess powder. And then, because I'm working with this idea of festive jewelry pieces, I decided to apply a little bit of embossing glitter. Wow, embossing glitter in white color, and I'm spreading it around on top of the stencil openings. And then you'll have to gently lift off the stencil, and you could use soap, hand soap, and warm water to clean the stencil. I've used baby wipes, but you should be very careful not to tear up, especially if it's a thinner stencil. Now I need to decide which part of the pattern I am going to use for the pendant, and I decided to use a heart-shaped metallic cutter to cut out the shape for the pendant. So I cut out my piece with the Pan Pastel design in half, and I intend to use half to make the pendant and the other half to make earrings. I'm trimming off more clay, and then I am going to apply this layer of clay colored, decorated with Pan Pastels on top of the layer of clay that I previously textured with the embossing folder. You should use a piece of baking paper, parchment paper, to gently and then you'll just have to use the cutter of your choice to cut a beautiful shape for the pendant. I decided to add more interest to the piece to spice it up a little bit, so I've used etching pearls and a piece of scrap clay passed on the setting number 3 with a little bit of gold color metallic leaf on top, and then you'll just have to press the etching pearl into the clay decorated with gold leaf, and then move it slightly to the right and to the left while pressing it into the clay, and then you'll just have to put it on top of the piece that you want to decorate with these little dots. And I used the smaller size of the etching pearl for the little dots and the larger size for the larger dot. And then I decided to add a little bit of scrap metallic leaf, gold metallic leaf in some areas. And I intend to make a second piece to fit this one. The pattern is not going to be identical, but the size and the shape, yes, I would do my best to have sizes and shapes that are pretty similar. And again, I've used metal leaf, scrap metal leaf to decorate the pieces, and I applied it in some areas. And now it's time to make the back of the pieces. So I placed these pieces onto the polymer clay textured with the embossing folder, and then I cut the piece in half because it's easier to work with smaller pieces. Then I used parchment paper to gently attach these pieces together, but I'm not I'm pressing gently on the clay, and I'm in fact tapping gently. I'm not moving the finger left and right because I don't want I don't want the pastel to go all over the piece. And I'm using a round cutter to cut out the shape of the element, but in fact I'm not going to make round earrings. I'm going to make half circle earrings. I think they are pretty similar in size and shape. And now I'm preparing the pieces to put them into the oven. So I'm baking them on a tile wrapped in parchment paper. And then I remembered that I had to put at least a little dot, a little pearl on top of the earrings as well. And then you'll just have to bake your pieces for 45 minutes at the recommended temperature. I'm working with white clay, so I am going to put an aluminum disposable pan on top to protect them from direct heat. Used small balls of polymer clay because I want to make a supporting system. I want to have these metal pieces on top of the clay pieces, and I want them to stay there until the resin is cured. And then I've prepared some UV resin, and I'm using a brush, and I'm going slowly. I'm applying small amounts because I don't want to have drippings, so I'm applying the right amount of resin, not too much, and I'm spreading it with the brush, and then I'm looking from the sides and I'm making sure that I don't have points with no resin. And then you can use a heat gun to remove any air bubbles from the resin. And I'm making sure that my pieces look okay before putting them under the UV. And then I will just attach a jump ring to the pendant so that I will be able to put a metallic chain and wear the piece. And I just opened the jump ring from the study ring, and I placed the metal component inside, and then I used pliers to close it back. So I hope that you liked today's idea and today's inspiration. Thank you for watching the tutorial. Stay tuned for more inspiration for work with polymer clay.